Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and this evening I'm going to talk about propaganda and how it influences people's thinking. Now, I'm going to try to keep this video as short as I can, but I'm going to be straight to the point with it because in the news and in politics, there's a lot of propaganda going on. I'm going to start off with the Jasmine Crockett situation. Now, Jasmine Crockett wanted to run for Senate. She was running against this Telefero, whatever his name is. He's a Democrat. Well, there are a couple of black YouTubers up here who are Democrats thinking that it's white people's fault, it's black men's fault, it's the Hispanics' fault that they didn't vote for Jasmine Crockett. All that propaganda in the news is that if you don't vote for the black woman, you're racist. The problem with Jasmine Crockett is she went to an upscale high school. And she's not from Texas, she's from St. Louis. And she's not a dumb woman. She's very intelligent. But where she got hooked is she allowed herself to become the stereotype ghetto black woman. Now, I believe all of this started when she and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I remember that video, going at it. Marjorie Taylor Greene said she had fake eyelashes. She came back and said Marjorie Taylor Greene had a butch body and bleached blonde hair. Well, if I look at both of those individuals, neither of them are no longer in Congress. Now, looking at the situation, and this is just my opinion, we are promoting too many women into politics, too many women into what men do. It used to be when you ran for politics, you were a person who was supposed to represent the people. Now, once you look at individuals in Congress, people like Jeffries, and Jeffries, he really wants the illegals to win. Bottom line, this is where the propaganda is fooling people. When you get on TV, you turn on the TV and you watch shows like The View. Neither of those women on there know anything about politics. You have a number of black people who don't know anything about politics or history. They're just regurgitating all the propaganda. Neither of them actually do any real research. Now, me, I do real research, and I'm out here in the streets. Now, I'm going to tell you this, most of your politicians have been bought. They've been bought by corporations. And I believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's from Texas. I believe he paid Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he was a left winger, $7 million. $7 million. And what did Marjorie Taylor Greene do? She changed her positions. And now she's no longer in Congress. Candace Owens. And I respect Candace Owens. Now, the issue with Candace Owens is, and I can understand her point of view when it comes to Israel, because we keep doing a lot for Israel. But what is Israel doing for the United States? And if you look at what's going on from the View's point of view and from the lefties' point of view, here's the big propaganda. They're really thinking that it's a war going on in Iraq. Now, the Democrats, because of the propaganda, they're complaining about high gas prices. But when we had Joe Biden in office, we had $3, $4 a gallon for gas for basically 4 years when he was in office. So, but with this, I don't even call it a war. I call it a conflict. Now, what Trump is doing, like like he did to Venezuela, we want to root out all these dictators. But you have people like Hakeem Jeffries and a number of your Democrats who are for the illegal immigrants. Now, propaganda is saying that we're racist if we don't like illegal immigrants. No, we're not racist. Black people, let me tell you this, your vote has been taken for granted by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was the party of the Klan. Now, what's funny, when Obama was in office, this is when all the Me Too, the alphabet community, the same sex marriage, this is when all that came into play. The Me Too, the Black Lives Matter. Obama did a good job of divide and conquer, but a number of black people voted for him, including me. I voted for him twice because Mitt Romney, he barely beat Mitt Romney. I would have voted for Mitt Romney, but Mitt Romney in 2012, he tried to skate around the Romney care in Massachusetts. That's where he got cooked. I didn't like John McCain. He was frail when he was running against Obama. He tried to become president in a primary in 2000 against Bush. McCain was too much of a rhino for me. But when you look at Obama, Obama was the best friend of Robert KKK Byrd. If you don't know who Robert KKK Byrd is, Robert Byrd was a senator from West Virginia who was the Grand Wizard of the KKK. Now, he was a Democrat. Now, if you look at Lyndon B. Johnson, so this is what you need to learn how to get around the propaganda and look at some history. In 1957, Lyndon B. Johnson, I believe, was a congressman. He may have been the Speaker of the House. But at that time, Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. You know, they wanted to pass the Civil Rights Act in 1957. Johnson said no. It took, in 1965, they passed it. Now, I believe the reason why Lyndon B. Johnson came in as president for the second time is because it was allegedly said that he was going to have black people voting Democrat for the next 200 years. So he ran against Barry Goldwater. Now, here's the issue with that race. He took a situation, Brown versus Board of Education, which was basically something that was on a state level, and he used it as an issue nationally, and it made Barry Goldwater look like he was racist. And it's kind of funny too with Brown Board of Education. They had National Guard out there. So the black people, including Brown, could go to school. But if you look at the propaganda, you have ICE, you had the National Guard in a lot of these blue cities. The individuals on the left are using their propaganda, and they're saying that ICE, you hear the word Nazi, you hear the word fascism, you hear that law enforcement is actually forcibly removing migrants. They didn't say illegal migrants, said migrants. Now, if you listen to the propaganda and you listen to it every day, that lie becomes the truth. And with individuals voting, you're going to have a number of individuals who don't even care about the issues. They're low information voters. They're voting for somebody because they're black. Now, getting back to Jasmine Crockett and Al Green, he's another one in Texas. She's claiming that the DNC was for that white man to win. Well, what Texas did was do some redistricting. She didn't have a district. And see, here's the thing that individuals don't understand. And I have to give a shout out to, and I heard his video, Red Supreme, for doing this, Machismo, Angry Man. Even Brother Ringo said this too. When it comes to black people don't support black people. Because when I look at a number of black people who are running now, in Georgia, they have a black person running for the House seat that was Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Now, I believe he's going to win. See, what the Democratic Party, it's full of, I don't want to use the term beta males. It's really full of lazy liberal males. Now, I'm not saying that every Democrat, because you got liberals in the Republican Party too. I mean, I'm not set on the Republican Party. I'm an independent thinker. But you have to, here's another thing that you have to understand. When you look at the word independent, a number of these individuals are not independent. Look at Bernie Sanders, senator for Vermont. He calls himself an independent, but he votes along with the Democrats, so he's really not an independent. A number of these individuals who are independents, really, in my humble opinion, they were actually at one time moderate Democrats, but they don't fit in the Republican Party. They're closer to the Republican Party, but they definitely don't fit into the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is very left. If you are not for illegals, if you're not for so-called women's rights, the alphabet community, you're for God, you're for males, then be a Democrat. The Democrat is anti-American, particularly when you break everything down to gender. One of the reasons why Jasmine Crockett lost is because Latinos, every Latino is not going to vote Democrat. You look at the 2024 election when Trump won. One thing I will tell you about illegals, Latinos. Well, I'll tell you about illegals. Yeah, the illegals are the new voting bloc. That's what that is. It's more of them. Black people are no longer the voting bloc. But see, the Democrats already know that black people, 92% of them, are going to vote for them anyway. So Democrats know they don't have to give black people anything. They want the illegals. Because with the illegals, they can give the illegals all of the entitlements, and the illegals will always vote for them. And what's going on with the maps is in 2030, when the census comes out, some states are going to gain House seats and some states are going to lose House seats. Now, I know, and shout out to Brother Phil, I like you, from the Phil Advise show. And it's great that you were pro-black. I'm pro-black. But I strongly disagree with you on this. You talk about how bad white people are, but you got to look at the individuals who look like you. Let me tell you something. You have a successful YouTube channel. There are a number of people who are jealous of you who don't want you speaking. Because a lot of your work, it actually came from Tommy Sotomayor. We know that. I was around when you were sitting in your car in a t-shirt down in Texas doing your show. But you are a Democrat. You may say you vote locally for, you don't vote party, but I believe you vote Democrat because I don't listen to what people say. I listen to I look at what people do. Now, the bottom line is this. When it comes to black people, many black people don't know about politics. They are the first ones to look at the propaganda. But one thing that is smart with black people, and I'll go back to Brother Phil again. For black people, we already know black people aren't going to vote Republican. They're not. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And this could throw the midterms to the Republicans, at least down in Texas, because Teleferro, whatever his name is, he's not going to beat Cornyn or the other guy. He's not going to do it. But you have a number of whites who are going to vote Democrat too. But you have a number of blacks who are going to vote Republican. In fact, the propaganda is if you're black, you're a sellout if you vote Republican. But you want to know during slavery, you want to know who your biggest sellouts were? Your biggest sellouts were other black people. When you had the field Negro trying to escape, you had the house Negro snitching on the field Negro. Because in actuality, you're not going to hear this. You hear slavery and everything. But a number of black people, they depended on that master for their health and welfare. But history is not going to tell you that. When I was in school, we didn't learn a lot about slavery. Many of us looked at roots, found out that that really didn't depict what slavery was at all. We see TV images. Now, we know that every race had slaves. Even white people had slaves. Even Latinos were slaves. The problem is when you have a lot of propaganda, they basically erase some of history. This is why I believe we need to be more knowledgeable of history. Now, as much research as I do, I'm not perfect. I even miss some things. Because there are some individuals out there who do a heck of a lot more research than I do. But I understand what's going on. I understand that there's still racism out there. I'm not kowtowing to any person who's Caucasian because I'm not inferior. See, that's what blacks have to learn how to stop being. You shouldn't be inferior. In fact, you should be superior because blacks, regardless of what happened to us, we're still here. That's what blacks have to understand now. Yes, are there some whites who are getting upset because they believe that they're superior? Yes, and they should be. They should have been scared all along. When black people, and this is what propaganda is not telling you at all either, black people under Jim Crow, they actually did a lot better because they had to. But see, when you look at structure, one of the reasons why Latinos didn't vote for Jasmine Crockett is because the Latinos have a structure. They have a patriarchal structure where Black women, they want a matriarchal community. They want to be leaders. Now, you have some white women who are trying to play the matriarch, but in the white community, it's not going to work. The only place where matriarchy works or de facto matriarchy works is right here in the United States. This is why a number of Black men are weak. I see more Black men crying, getting emotional. They're on television. I remember Van Jones crying. Get a number of Black men over talking each other, calling each other names. But you don't get the heterosexual, free thinking Black man. He's the one that's thrown out in the woods. He's the one that doesn't have any friends. And that's okay. And I'm going to say to all the heterosexual brothers out here, the free thinking brothers, I'm with you because I'm one of them. You don't need to join the crowd because you got a lot of sense. Because the people who are against you, they're the sellouts and they're the inferior individuals. That's why other Blacks who are still on a plantation call you the names. But propaganda says you're the sellout. Propaganda influences a lot of people because a number of individuals are very gullible. Look at Jesse Jackson. And shout out, I met Jesse Jackson in Richmond, Virginia back in 1984. Jesse Jackson was a heck of a civil rights activist. I don't care I don't care where he was politically. He was going to run for president. Donald Trump raised money for his campaign. But when Trump became president, he started hating Trump. The View. Donald Trump, nobody's telling you this, but I remember when Donald Trump was on Oprah. I remember when Donald Trump was on The View. He was liked. He was liked by a number of Black people, a lot of your rappers. Jennifer Hudson, when she had travesty in her family, Donald Trump allowed Jennifer Hudson to stay at one of his properties until she became better. Donald Trump has given money to HBCUs. But propaganda says Donald Trump is racist. He's racist because he called Haiti a shithole. Haiti is a shithole. But when you listen to the propaganda by mainstream media and by some of these podcasters, particularly on the left, they have opinions. And a number of individuals feel powerful about having an opinion, even if their opinion isn't well researched. Most people in this country are very gullible. This is why I said they have L.E.A.D. They believe in the lies. They're emotional. They look at the assumption and they're delusional. And when I see a number of them on panels here on YouTube, Facebook, and a lot of these other social media platforms, they do nothing but blab. They, in their minds, they believe that their opinion makes them powerful. Well, a number of them are singing a James Brown song. They're talking loud, but they're not saying anything. And see, on my platform, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not looking for a lot of subscribers. I'm going to probably lose some subscribers. That's okay. I'm not monetized. But I'm here to give you an education. And I'm here to tell you that you keep listening to this propaganda out here, you're going to find yourself asked out. You might not like the president, but he's doing everything that he said he was going to do. And most of us who voted for him, of course, he's going to make mistakes. But you got people like Whoopi Goldberg. What is her name? That Navarro chick, who's supposed to be a Republican. And in fact, in the View, they didn't like Elizabeth Hasselbeck because she was the only conservative voice on the View and turned it out, and the audience didn't like the View with her on it. It's an echo chamber. So they bring in Cheryl Underwood. I don't know who paid her, but she is another one on the plantation. This is why when you listen to the mainstream media, when you look at The View, when you look at Colbert, all these shows out here, they give you one point of view. See, what they do is call the other side fascist when they're the most authoritarian out there because they're on the side of all the dictators. You know, Democrats are on the side of Iran. Yet they're talking about the gas prices, but forgot they had high gas prices. The food costs were high, but everything is great when it's going their way. In fact, you don't hear this, but it took the Trump administration, to basically erase the 94 crime bill. You know who set that up? Senator Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden. They believe that blacks are prima donnas. Now, you look at propaganda, and I can see right through it. Newsom sitting up there with a black person, legs crossed. And I don't know why you men are crossing your legs, but he's sitting up there saying he got a 960 on his SAT. Oh, I'm no better than you. Well, of course you know better than me, but you're trying to say that every black person gets a 940 on their SAT. When I know he was lying, he probably did get a 940 on his SAT. But he acts like he comes from the same neighborhood that black people came from. He's privileged. He's governor. But see, you need to listen to Brother Malcolm when he was telling you, yes, you have the conservatives and you have the white conservatives and the white liberals. They're entangled in this political football. But the white liberal is the one that somehow knows how to reel black people in. Because they're trying to tell you how to think, black people. This is why the liberals don't like me, because they can't tell me how to think. You got individuals up there in Minnesota calling black people who work for ICE house niggas. And these are white people. Then you got this Tory guy saying that, oh, well, that's the only time you can call a black person a nigger. Bottom line, shouldn't use the word at all. Because when you give somebody an exception, they're going, that's giving them an inch. And what happens when you give somebody an inch? They take a whole mile. And what the left does in this country, they love to use the word homophobic. They love to use the word misogynistic. When you got a number of misandrists, and the ones who are misandrous, the women in there, oh, well, we don't need men. We went out there in the 1940s and worked during the war. Let me tell you something. If you want to be that equal, women, this is what the propaganda is not telling you either. You're giving money for a lot of programs that men can't get because they're trying to get you over there in the male dominated fields. You have individuals getting up here saying that, well, nursing, accounting, architecture, they're no longer professional degrees. That's not true. They are professional degrees. And I mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again. They're just not giving you a large sum of money. And the reason why, because when you look at those degrees, most people do not get doctorate degrees in nursing, architecture, because those are fields that are professional fields. And when you get a bachelor's and a master's, you can go get a license and you're a professional. Same with engineering. They're not degrees like a JD for your doctor of jurisprudence or your D.Ed, your doctor of education, or your doctor of psychology. You still get licenses, but you don't need to spend a lot of money. And when you come out of school, you have a lot of debt. See, the propaganda, and it told black women this, that they're the most educated when they're not the most educated. They're the most enrolled. We all know that. But what are they getting their degrees in? Even with the promotion of women getting into STEM, not a lot of women in the STEM. Not that they can't handle it, but you got to work if you're going to be in STEM. Because you have to put your money where your mouth is if you're going to get in STEM, particularly if you're going to get into engineering. Very few women are engineers, but the ones who are, more power to them. But see, propaganda's saying that a woman to go make her own money, she'll be in her own club. The men can't join her club, but when the men have a club, they have to let women in. And when they let women in, that makes everything equal. No, that takes the power away from men. When she has her power, because it states that no men can come in her club. Where's the equality? Propaganda says that women are equal to men. But if they were truly equal to men, why don't they create their own infrastructure, their own businesses? Certainly, everybody's going to work for somebody, but create your own. Like the WNBA. The WNBA is being subsidized by the NBA. But you wouldn't know if I didn't tell you. But propaganda won't tell you because propaganda wants you to live the lie. Propaganda is a big influence of what's going on in this country. You have individuals thinking that Trump violated the War Powers Act. No, he didn't. Now, if there was actually a war, because it's not a war, Congress can declare war, not the president. If there's a conflict for 60 days, like in Iran or in Venezuela, the president can bypass Congress. There's also the Monroe Doctrine out there. Monroe Doctrine of 1807. You can bring the National Guard in. You can utilize martial law if you have to get a hold of the crime. But propaganda told you that ICE was deporting Americans. Well, some of you Americans need to be deported because you don't like it here anyway. But you're sitting out here with your silly marches, your ignorant talk, going on The View, going on CNN, ABC, NBC, MS Now, shooting the same propaganda. Now, I'm not saying that everybody on the right is smart, but you have individuals. You're black and you wear a MAGA hat, you're told that you are a sellout. Well, Make America Great Again wasn't Trump's slogan. That was a slogan started by Reagan. Now, you have individuals, particularly blacks out here, they're thinking it's going back to, and you have white people who think this way too. or when white people ruled everything. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like that now. MAGA, I will say this: it's a subjective brand. I'm gonna keep it balanced like that because some people may believe that MAGA, you have individuals that want that supremacy, that white supremacy. Then you have some individuals that really want a better country. It depends on whose side of the coin you're on. But you have to realize that even opposite sides of the coin equals dysfunction. The real truth is you always want your country to improve. And the reason why immigrants are coming over here because their countries are shitholes. But see, you have a number of these immigrants coming over here, bringing their flags up here, like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, shouting at the president. And it's a lot of women who don't need to be in power. You even have Mamdani already trying to mess New York up. I'm going to tell you this: you get who you vote for. When you don't do your reading, just because somebody sounds good, Jim Jones sounded good, David Koresh sounded good, but because individuals didn't read their Bible, they fell for the propaganda. You see where I'm getting? When you don't do your own homework and you allow somebody to do the thinking for you, you become a slave, regardless of what race you're in. And that's what the media wants. See, the media, if you look at it, you have individuals that state, well, college degree is much better than a trade. Well, it just depends on what you go into in college, because when you're going to college, for the most part, you're not making any money. But if you have a good trade, you're making money. And just because you don't have a college degree, it doesn't mean that you are a millionaire. Look at Carnegie Mellon. Look at J.P. Morgan. Look at people like Zuckerberg. Look at people like Gates. Look at people like the gentleman who owns Amazon. They dropped out of school. Steve Jobs dropped out of school. They were millionaires, billionaires. But see, when you have the propaganda, you don't know this because you're only told what to think and how to think, and you're demonized and you're canceled if you don't think the way the mainstream media, colleges, religion, your job, and the government wants you to think. That's the 5 power conferences of society. Ignorance is a bliss. That's Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Bottom line is you have to have a creative mind. Now, you also have to understand this too. Propaganda is not going to tell you that nothing is equal. Life isn't fair. You have to take an opportunity and get yourself into something that is interesting to you. Not be pressured to go in something because you got more men here and less women there. Yeah, I hear women, well, we make 77 cents on a dollar. Well, yeah, you do make 77 cents on a dollar when they take the types of jobs you do versus the types of jobs men do. Men do more of the hazardous jobs. It's true. And most women, they bitched their way to the top, sucked and fucked their way, some of them, to the top. They didn't sacrifice themselves. That's why a number of women talk about equality while relationships go one way. Because women don't love, women don't tell you they love you, but they don't show it. They don't make sacrifices. They might make sacrifices for their children, but they don't do anything for their relationship because they're not geared to love unconditionally. They're taught to love conditionally. This is why they have a number of these outrageous standards. Now, it's funny. Why is it that when a man has standards, he's a chauvinist? But, but if a woman has standards, it's feminism. Nobody's going to answer that question because they can't answer that question. But the bottom line is this, that when you let propaganda lead you down the wrong way and you don't do anything about it, you become a sheep. That propaganda becomes your master. And see, propaganda's also not telling white people this. All white people aren't on the same level either. You have a lot of poor white people. You have a number of white people, red states, blue states, who are also on welfare. But if you turn on the television, you're looking at fake diversity. It's forced diversity. It's almost, I'm going to use a word that nobody's using, and I've used it because I've talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect as well. One of the first ones to talk about it back in 2018, 2019. Go back and listen to everything that I've talked about on these videos. Now some of the bigger channels are using. But go back to my older videos and you'll see that I've done the Dunning-Kruger effect. I've done a lot of this. And I wasn't even part of the manosphere. And I don't have a big channel. But I know here on YouTube, a number of the bigger channels are taking stuff that we come up with. That's fine. But the issue with the propaganda is this: creates a stupid society. See, what the Democrats or what the left is asking for, they blow a lot of hot air because people on the left are generally lazy people. They don't want to get out there and work. They want people who are doing the actual work to give their money up to them. They think sitting around doing their little paper pushing jobs, going out there for their lattes, running around in Washington, D.C. and New York, all these liberal cities, not doing anything, disguising as if they are doing something. And on the left, in actuality, they want to be the educated ones while they keep the masses dumb. This is why they want to have cancel culture. It's communism. See, what the left talks about, they will talk about this country being a mess. It's in their heads that this country is a mess. They don't talk about their situation, that they're doing well, but they think they can speak for the rest of us. Propaganda. All these individuals are paid propagandists. All these people who are out there protesting are paid. These politicians are paid. But you wouldn't know that if I didn't speak about it or anybody else didn't speak about it. Propaganda is dangerous because it makes people gullible. This is why I will say to individuals, not only research in books, look at what's going on around you. Look at your local news. Understand what's going on in your local government. Bet you a number of people don't even vote in their local elections. And then you have this individual, and you know this Tiffany, uh, she was in Dalton, Illinois. Do you know she moved down to Georgia and she wants to run as a Republican? She's not even going to win because she left her record up in Dalton, Illinois. Angela Stanton King, she was a Republican. Changed. That's why you can't have a number of women in power. I said a number. I didn't say no women can be leaders. A number of them cannot be leaders. And if you look at the Democratic Party, look at Obama. He didn't support Winsome Sears. It's a black woman. He supported the two white ladies who won governorships in New Jersey and Virginia. Now, Obama spoke very well. But going back to Jesse Jackson, Donald Trump wasn't even invited. But again, Donald Trump gave money to Jesse Jackson's campaign when he was running for president in 1988 in the primary against Michael Dukakis, governor of Massachusetts, who then lost to George H.W. Bush. But see, the funeral, and it had Clinton, George Bush didn't even go, but Clinton was there, Obama was there, Joe Biden was there. And they turned a funeral into a political fest. And a number of them were talking about Donald Trump instead of looking at what Jesse Jackson did. In fact, the Democrats used Jesse Jackson. The last time I saw Jesse Jackson was in 2024 when he came out there in a wheelchair. He could barely talk. The Democrats used him. And I believe that Joe Biden used Joe Biden to run for president as well. Democrats will eat their own. But see, nobody wanted Jasmine Crockett because she was too phony. She wasn't serious. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, I had smoke for both of them. We'll talk about fake eyelashes. Then you go say Marjorie Taylor Greene had a butch body with bleached blonde hair. They both should not have even been in Congress. But again, you got a number of people. And see, black people, they're going to vote for symbology. I believe was Keisha Bottoms, that's her name. She's running for governor in Georgia. She's not going to win. Now, of course, you're going to have black people, they're going to be out there, well, you're not going to vote for a black woman. I'm not going to vote for a black woman. I don't want them in power. Does it make me a misogynist? No. I know that when you put a number of black women as being a black man, myself, they're going to take advantage of that power. I mean, I don't want a number of white women or Latino women in power either. The bottom line is, a number of women ain't ready for the big show. But they're ones sitting up there, one of you, don't know a damn thing. You got individuals on CNN. And that's the problem. When things get one-sided in favor of one gender based on their looks, while they want the other gender to maintain traditionalism. See, if a man decides he wants to tell a woman he believes in patriarchy, she's going to say, well, oh, you're going back to the 50s. But yet, when you tell her you're not going to wine her and dine her, even though you're just meeting? Is that not going back into the 50s? That's the problem. We need to reverse the situation. And see, even when you reverse the situation, a number of women are going to walk around to try to be right, even though they're wrong. They try to talk and confuse you. No, you stand your ground. And men have to be independent thinkers. But when they don't think independently, they get corralled. When I was watching Animal Kingdom, just went off. Want to know why the men didn't capitalize? Because they allowed the women in their business. And a number of you need to watch Animal Kingdom. Now, do you know why shows like Marshall and uh, when they had Rip and Beth and Yellowstone, 1923, 1883, Landman? You know why they got uh, Tulsa King, the mayor of Nightwood or whatever it is? Taylor Sheridan was behind all those projects. It's because they're male centric. They're not woke. A lot of these shows out here, you got chicks thinking that they can go out at a 4'11", 120-pound chick, thinking she's going to take on a 5'9" guy. Because they want propaganda. They've been throwing a lot of propaganda. That's why they're not winning. And you have individuals out here just lying daily about what's going on in this country. See, when you listen to the propaganda coming from the left, you would think that you were sitting or you were standing in a line like it's 1929 to get bread and milk and cheese. That's what the Democrats make anybody who doesn't think. And of course, the Democrats, here's where they are smart. They're going to play into the low income voters or low informed voters. They talk about slavery. They really think that a number of these individuals who are Latina, you think every Latina, you have individuals talking about picking cotton. Every Latina is not going to be out here farming for white folks. See, that's the problem. And there are some white folks out here on the left and the right. Now, I don't hate white people at all. I like the down to earth ones who understand what's going on. I'm in the corner with them. But when you go outside and you actually believe in your heart that you are better than me and you're not, then I'm going to call you out. Because in the long run, you're not. Because if you were better than me, you wouldn't be up there calling anybody who's black who supports ICE an Uncle Tom, and you're a white person and a Negro. And then you got people like Tory who support that, saying that should only be the exception, should be no exception, any exception at all. The bottom line is this: when you know your history, and there are lots of truths out there. Now, I'm not saying that somebody who comes from the left and they have a concise thought and they back it up with facts. I'm not saying that they're not wrong either. What I'm looking at is you want to put a bunch of truths together, then you have to come at it with common sense. The left comes at it like they know best. That is their problem. You see, there are two types of liberal thought. There's classic liberalism and there's progressive liberalism. Well, too much of this liberalism, like even DEI. Forced DEI is not real diversity. You're trying to force something upon me to make it look like the American melting pot. But you can take something and make it look like something, but it still isn't what you want it to be. It's just like the person. I'll give you an example. You know, you go in a room and you hear the person who's the loudest. Sometimes the person who's the loudest, you can't hear them. Because number one, you're ignoring them. Number two, they're talking loud and they're not saying anything. It's the individual who's quiet, who's observing. And this is what I say: visualize and analyze when you are dealing with situations. Stop looking and listen. Because it's not what people say, it's what people do. I always say follow the action. To live in the real world, you have to be prepared. Now, if you are a free thinking black man and you're on the left side of the political spectrum, which they're not many, because many of the men who are on the left, and I even see some of these YouTube shorts, and it comes out there too, where a number of women don't want liberal men because they believe liberal men are lazy. I didn't say that, but there are a number of, I'll tell you what, go look for yourself. But see what's going on with Venezuela and what's going on in Iran. Want to stabilize these nations so we can get the gas prices down. Now, one thing that's not being told, we had oil reserves left, but the Biden administration sucked up all the oil reserves. So now we have to depend on Venezuela and we have to depend on Iran. Now they're getting a lot of ships sunken, but here's what you need to know. And shout out to Tito for bringing this out because I said this as well. Iran has always had a nuclear weapon, just like we've had nuclear weapons. Now, yes, we're trying to prolong how long it's going to take for them to be able to utilize the nuclear weapon. But they have nuclear weapons, and we know it. Now, of course, we have to hit Iran because you think about who's backing Iran now: China, Cuba. Cuba is very close to us. Russia. But see, you have a lot of these lefties who don't participate in anything. They're not police. They're not police officers. They don't go in the military. They act like they know everything, but never participate in everything. They get on television and spew propaganda without participating in anything. And too many of them believe in the illegals. We yet let this see them walk over into another country with the American flag illegally. Let them spew the propaganda over there in someone else's country. They might not be coming back. And if they do come back, they might be in a casket. or in a box somewhere. So you have a number of Americans who are treasonous to their country, but they're benefiting off of this country. But again, going back to Jasmine Crockett, she didn't win because the character. She's a black woman who believes in feminism, matriarchy. And it's not the Latinos' fault that they didn't vote for her. They didn't like her. Because you're a black woman, I'm not going to vote for you because you're black. I don't agree with your views. So I'm going to vote for the person that's similar to my views. That's how it works. That's what the Latinos did. That's what the black men did. Because in retrospect, yeah, they took Jesse Jackson's funeral and made it a political hack fest instead of celebrating what this man really did. They did that also to a senator who perished and he was from Minnesota a long time ago. I forgot the guy's name. The Democrats did the same thing. They turned it into a show, a circus. And that's what you have now with a lot of these politicians. Many of them don't have your best interest. They have the interest of the elitists, not the proletariats. So I'm going to say this. You need to understand that propaganda. Because the propaganda is to get you to think the way they want you to think. And they're very good at using the propaganda. They know how to use different words of hope. I never use the word hope, hope and change. You're either going to make changes or not. The way you change the system is you get people who have been in the system out of it for a long time. That is very difficult to do because they've co-opted a system that keeps them in it. And it keeps them in it because when it comes to actual wealth, they generate wealth off of propaganda. Lies, emotion, assumption, and delusion. Because that's how a number of them are living. But they're going to tell you that you're oppressed when you really aren't oppressed. Meantime, in order to get yourself free, you have to educate yourself. You have to look through the propaganda. Because propaganda is everywhere, on the left and even on the right, but more on the left. But if you understand what's going on and you be a free thinker, and you understand that your truth will set you free, you stay red pill, regardless of what the situation is, and you carry yourself with some integrity, some understanding, and you're street smart and book smart, you'll defeat the propaganda. Why? Because you're the wall that the propaganda will bounce off. And when you have individuals calling you names like sellout, misogynist, racist, you're the one who sets the mirror up because you're really reflecting that sentiment back to the people who are doing the name calling. Because in the end, the one who knows how to allow the propaganda bounce off of them, it's like reflection or refraction. In physics, that light bounces back, and you have a mirror up. What's it going to do? It's going to blind them. And propaganda, once it bounces off individuals who know how to take on a propaganda, they will blind the propagandists out of power. Because in the end, the truth is always going to set you free. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. For the 411 Talk Zone radio show, you can find me right here. YouTube, X formerly Twitter, True Social, and Rumble. And for the QCIS channel, you can find me right here on YouTube, X formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I'm just going to say this. People who are offended, if you're not offended, don't worry about what somebody else has. Worry about what you have, because you lived once. So I'm going to say this. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Know that the sun always rises in the east, sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, then change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.